Welcome to the Terminology Leading Practices stream of SNOMED CT Expo 2024. Thank you to B2I for sponsoring this stream. My name is Maria Braithwaite and I'm a Senior Terminologist at SNOMED International. I will be moderating today's session. All questions will be answered at the conclusion of the presentation. Online attendees, please use the Q&A button to type your questions to the presenter. On-site attendees, please use the microphone provided in this room. I'm now pleased to introduce Professor Sumi Sung from Chungbuk National University, who will be presenting development of 5 cancer reference sets in SNOMED CT in South Korea. Professor Sung, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sumi Sung from Chungbuk National University. As a researcher interested in SNOMED CT, I'm very pleased that the Expo is being held in here, Korea. Okay, and it is also an honor to present our work on developing 5 cancer reference sets in SNOMED CT in South Korea. So I would like to acknowledge my co-author, 현애 Park, our project leader, and 아정변, 지연유, 은석장, 영성판, and Hanna Kang. Okay, so this is the overview of my presentation. I will start with the background of the study, followed by the methods for developing the reference sets. And I will then discuss the results, including the domain of the reference sets and how they have been integrated into the SNOMED CT Korean Extension. And lastly, I will cover these discussion points and conclude with future direction. So background. So SNOMED CT is the most comprehensive and multilingual healthcare terminology in the world, and enhances the interoperability and contribute to the continuity of care. In 2020, the Ministry of Health and Welfare of Korea adopted SNOMED CT as a standardized terminology for EHR system and promoted its use in the national level 5 profile. So we developed 5 SNOMED CT Korean cancer reference sets to meet the nation's interoperability needs. So we for the 5 cancer, we chose breast cancer and lung cancer, colorectal cancer, gastric cancer, and liver cancer because these were the most prevalent cancers in Korea. So we go to methods. So this is the development process of the reference sets. So we first identified the items for the reference sets and reviewed the developed items. And we then mapped the reference set item to SNOMED CT, and finally we imported the mapped SNOMED CT concepts into the reference sets. So before we beginning, we established a consortium comprising the National Cancer Center and 5 healthcare data center hospital. The Big Data Connect research team from the National Cancer Center participated in a consortium, and the Connect project was a kind of a large-scale cancer big data registry built with the participation of major medical institutions in South Korea. And additionally, from the data center hospital, 5 oncologists and 5 terminologists joined the consortium. So the National Cancer Center and Healthcare Data Center Hospital and research team work collaboratively to validate the identified reference items and ensure the quality of the mapping. Additionally, we collected local Korean terms from the National Cancer Center and Data Center Hospital to add them as description in Korean extension. So the 5 data center hospital provided us with local terms related to cancer, while the National Cancer Center provided us the cancer libraries through the National Big Data Connect project. From these data tables and local terms, we identify reference items, and the developed reference items were validated and confirmed by the oncologist in the consortium. So we then mapped the identified reference set items to SNOMED CT, and those mapping results were validated by consortium terminologists. Now let's take a step-by-step look at the reference set development process. To identify items for the cancer reference set, we first reviewed the available cancer libraries. So these libraries contain two types of the data: structured data with predefined value and unstructured data such as text data, like free text entries. After reviewing the library, we manually select the relevant item to ensure they met the criteria for inclusion in the references. However, in the case of the unstructured data, we could not extract the necessary values. So, for example, in the case of chip complaint, only the item were collected in the registry, so we could not extract the corresponding value. So as a result, we received the unstructured data collected by National Cancer Center for those registry items and analyzed them and then added them to the reference set. For the missing parts, we gather additional data from the clinical practice guideline. So through this process, as shown on the right side of the table, we derived reference items, including those that collect structured value and those that collect unstructured value. So the reference items and value were initially organized into 10 domains: diagnosis, chip complaint, and complication, medication procedure, evaluation procedure, pathology, and administration, initial assessment, and treatment outcome. However, since the items of the chip complaint and complication domain overlapped, so we integrated those two domains into a single domain called signs and symptom. And also, considering the size of the other domain, we combined the medication and procedure into the treatment domain. So these were the initial items and values of the reference sets. So these are the initial items and values of each domain for each cancer type, which represent the overall scope of the reference set. So however, when we thoroughly reviewed the items of each reference set, we discovered that many items were duplicated in the administration and initial assessment and pathology and, not complications, but treatment outcome across the different cancer types. So therefore, we decided to integrate the items for these domain across 5 cancer types into a single set. After identifying the initial items and values for the references, we conducted a thorough review. So during this review process, we focused on ensuring consistency and avoiding overlap and checking for the proper inclusion and exclusion and identifying any careless mistakes. So in ensuring consistency and avoiding overlap, we reviewed whether the concept of the items included in the reference sets were consistent or whether they represented consistent concept within a single domain. In checking for proper inclusion and exclusion, we consider the level of granularity between concept for inclusion, and we ensure that no essential concept were missing for exclusion. So lastly, we checked for any typo or outdated items. So we made efforts to ensure that concepts in the reference set were consistent. For example, in the breast cancer signs and symptom reference set, all the items were all related to breast symptoms and were composed only the concepts included in the SNOMED CT clinical finding hierarchy. However, in the case of treatment reference set, they were instances where items within a single reference set were not consistent. This is because, as I mentioned earlier, I combined the items from the medication and procedure domains. We carefully consider the level of granularity, and we try to ensure that no critical item were excluded. Multiple reviews were conducted to verify that all essential items were included in the reference set. For example, in the lung cancer treatment reference set, all surgery-related lung cancer were included, but during the development process, total pneumonectomy were accidentally omitted. So finally, we added. And while handling multiple cancer type, we encountered errors where items from one cancer type were mistakenly including in another. For example, a diagnosis for lung cancer was mistakenly included in the breast cancer set. So, in addition, there were typos during item development. So, following the motto, do not assume that this will never happen to you. So, we conducted multiple review to catch and correct such errors. Therefore, we used reviewers with multiple perspective, including oncologist, terminologist, and researcher. So, and each reference set was thoroughly reviewed in every step of reference set development process. In the process of the identifying reference set items, we received a review from domain specialists, including consortium members, specifically oncologists and terminologists. And in the process of mapping the item of SNOMED CT and adding them to Korean extension and converting them to into a reference set, we receive additional review from the external terminologist and the SNOMED CT authoring platform, such as classification and validation function, so ensuring the system-based review. After that, we mapped the reference set item to SNOMED CT. So first, we translated the reference set item and value into English, and then pre-process of the items was conducted. So if a semantically matching the concept existed in SNOMED CT, we mapped the item to that concept and classify the mapping type. And in case where the no exact concept existed, we map the item to a post-coordinated expression and classify the mapping type. The review process consists of 3 steps: internal review, consortium review, and external terminologist review. And finally, the final map was derived. So then we added the mapping result to SNOMED CT Korean Extension. As the first step, we re-review again and revise the cancer reference set. Secondly, we determine whether the cancer reference set item was mapped to a pre-coordinated SNOMED CT concept. If it was, we added the cancer reference set item as a synonym to Korean Extension. And I mean, we only added Korean description to the Korean extension. And if it was not, we check if the cancer reference item was mapped to post-coordination expression. So if the item was mapped to the post-coordinated expression, we model and edit it as a new concept to the Korean extension. If it was not, we just exclude it from the Korean extension. So this is an example of authoring a new concept. So the item was chemotherapy side effect eruption grade 3 severe in the signs and symptom domain. So we map it to a post-coordinated expression, eruption caused by a drug with severity of severe. And then first we map it to the and then using the existing fully defined concept of eruption caused by drug, we develop a fully specified name in English and added several synonyms as description. Additionally, we added Korean preferred and acceptable descriptions using local term from the healthcare data center hospital. So after that, we manually imported the mapped SNOMED CT concept into the reference set. And this means we manually collected author's SNOMED CT concept in the Korean extension and included them in a specific reference set. So we use the SNOMED reference set and translate service tool to develop these reference sets. So first, we created a new concept ID for each reference set, and then we register these reference set IDs in the system. So using this system, we register reference set ID, module ID, namespace, organization, and domain. After that, we imported the items fully added to the Korean extension as member of the reference set. So now go to results. So this is the newly created concept and description in SNOMED CT Korean Extension from the reference set development. In total, 544 new concept and 2,544 description were added. So these number of new concept and description were smaller compared to the other reference set initial items. This is because many items in the reference set were duplicated across the different cancer type. References were created for each domain, as explained earlier. 4 domains, including administration and initial assessment, pathology, and treatment outcome, were integrated into a single reference set that covers all 5 cancers. And diagnosis, sign and symptom, treatment, and evaluation reference set were created each for all 5 cancer cancer type. So when I create this presentation, I didn't know that the Korean beta version had already released, but I heard that it already released a few days ago. So now you can see it. So if you check the members, you will be able to see all the concepts included and preferred terms in Korean. And the example shown here is for the colorectal cancer diagnosis reference set, and it includes all the codes for colorectal cancer from Korean version of ICD, known as KCD. And this is the colorectal cancer signs and symptom reference set, and these reference set include the patient's chief complaint and complication that occurring during the treatment process. So the concept marked with the Korean flag were newly created concept in the Korean extension. And this is the treatment reference set. This reference set includes all treatments such as surgery and medication, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. And lastly, discussion and conclusion. So the developed reference set can serve as standardized items and values for health information exchange related to cancer in Korea, involving stakeholders such as medical institution, public organization, and private entity and patients. And these sets can be used as a data set to establish a foundation for healthcare big data, including the integration of multi-institutional cancer-related data from medical institution or some kind of public area. And they also facilitate the standardization of cancer-related data in the medical institution and support the application of SNOMED CT within hospital information system. And future work. So since the beta version has already been released, so we need the next task is smoothly transition it to Korean extension, full Korean extension. And additionally, in the future, we need to implement the developed reference set in the clinical setting and share these use case with user to foster user engagement. And also continuous updates and quality maintenance are necessary. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Professor Sung will now take questions. As a reminder, if you're in the room, please use the microphone to ask your question. Any questions? Okay, I've got one here. How is the developed reference sets expected to be used in the clinical setting or research? How is the developed reference set expected to be used in clinical setting or research?
Okay. So I think the first things to implement in the clinical setting, I think the hospital should map these reference set to their own local codes, and then they can use these reference set for the some kind of analyze the patient data, or if they want to exchange their hospital data to another hospital, maybe they can use these reference set as some kind of standards.
Thank you. And there's a follow-up question. What were the difficulties you experienced during the development process?
So because it was the human job, so human responsibility to review all the process and all the items. So we have to be careful for to pick some kind of errors or some kind of the exclusion. So it was very difficult things to develop in reference sets. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Professor Sung. With that, we will conclude this block of sessions. Online delegates, you can rejoin the next group of sessions at 13:30 KST through the event lobby. On-site delegates, lunch will now take place in the exhibition hall in about 9 minutes, where you can view the e-posters and lightning talks as well. It is also your last chance to visit the exhibitors and play our passport game. Thank you.